folks, and welcome back to another episode of Friday Night Spotlight, brought to you by 911 Air Repair, your local air conditioning expert specializing in maintenance, repair, and new installations. I know we kind of talked about this team just, what was it, maybe 2 weeks ago or so, but in this case, we really do have a reason to be talking about them. We are talking about undefeated Santa Cruz Valley. This week's matchup is not just to see if they can keep their undefeated record going. It's also to see, hey, who's really the top team in the 2A conference. Because right now, Santa Cruz is ranked number 2, and they are going to be going against number 1 in Gilbert Santan Charter. As always, David, you've seen Santa Cruz. What are you expecting from the Dust Devils in this game?
Yeah, first of all, I'm just really excited for this game because it's going to be two powerhouses in the 2A conference. The two best teams according to the rankings, both in the same division or region as well. You know, these are two really solid teams that are going to face each other and possibly see each other in the playoffs as well. Santan Charter has been absolutely incredible this whole year. They've beaten some really solid opponents, but especially up in 3A as well. They've had a couple outside of open games where they've played other conferences. And then Santa Cruz is no slouch themselves. They've been dominating for the most part. Their defense has been solid throughout this season. The offense has been relying on really two solid running backs in Amy Seguri and Jonathan Ramos, two guys that I talk about frequently, as well as quarterback Nathan Harris. It's been a solid group of just well-rounded ball players that know what they can do. But it's going to be a question on can they keep it up, especially against an actual real solid opponent. Because like we mentioned before, Santa Cruz doesn't have the best region but outside of Santan Charter. They face a lot of teams that are just not on their caliber. And so it's going to come down to, is this really the team that we expect, and who is going to be the better team? Whoever wins this game is going to either stay at 1 or move up to 1, depending on if Santa Cruz can get the win. I'm not sure who could take this one. I'm just expecting a really solid game, but it could go the way of Santan Charter just being too strong for a team like Santa Cruz, who doesn't see that same caliber opponent for a very long time. So I'm expecting just a really solid game here. We'll see what plays out, but either way, it's going to be an absolute, a fantastic game, and I'm hoping for a good one.
Yeah, like David mentioned, looking at these two teams, it all depends. It really all comes down to this game, pretty much just what the final rankings might be. Looking at the rest of their schedule, I think the only other team that can kind of give Santa Cruz a handful will be Pima. But other than that, they really haven't faced a tough opponent like Santan Charter this week. Looking at Santan Charter, we got to talk about their quarterback, Uriah Nelloms. He pretty much does everything for the team. 73% completion rate, 15 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, 874 passing yards. He's their leading rusher as well with 6 touchdowns. But in addition to him, Santan Charter also has 2 other guys who can run the ball really well. Both of them, Benny Sharp and Christian Munoz, have over 300 rushing yards. And just talking about the receivers, Nelloms has 5 different options he can go to. I feel like this is the key here because they have so much variety and so many different weapons that can get the job done. Looking at Santa Cruz's defense, they haven't really been challenged up until last week, and that was just because the team got off to a shaky start. So looking at this game, I think that's going to be the key here. Which defense can get that big stop? Santan Charter again, Samuel Sharp leads the team, 35 tackles. But then you have Dwayne Jones with 9 tackles for a loss. Barrick Schultz has 5 tackles, 5 sacks, and as a team they have 12 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 13 fumble recoveries. I think in this case, Santan Charter might have a slightly upper hand here. But, I mean, hey, who knows? This is just a regular season matchup. Like David mentioned, this will likely also be a playoff matchup in the future, and hey, maybe the outcome will be different at that point. Who knows? But anyways, moving on to our additional games of what to watch. David, what else do you have your eye on?
I'm going for the team that I've been covering for the last couple of weeks, and that's Casa Grande Union. Casa Grande Union going up against Marana this week. This is going to be another tough game, and it seems like, unfortunately, the wheels are starting to fall off of that Union train a little bit. Things have not looked great for them the last 2 weeks, had really bad losses to Mika Mountain, who just dominated them on the ground. And then last week, the same situation. They were dominated on the ground by Buena in their first region game. So this is going to be another tough game for them. Also, they have to go on the road to get this win. Luke Keaton is starting to show his little bit of an experience at the quarterback position. He had a lot of fumbles and multiple interceptions last week against a really good opponent. Avion Williams' availability could be in question after having a hard hit last week. He hit his head, and it looks like he may be available. We'll have to wait and see on that one. This team has to get better. This team has to be more disciplined and has to be able to kind of keep their emotions in check as well, because penalties are, again, a huge issue for this team. They had 15 penalties against them in the first half alone last week. This is the team that has to be. We have a lot of expectations for this team, and they have to live up to them. And right now, the last 2 weeks, they just have not. I don't know what to expect from a Miranda team that is undefeated and very talented. And Casa Grande Union, especially going through it with a lot of injuries as well right now. It could be a tough sledding for them the rest of the season, and they're just going to have to find a way to right the ship right now. So I'm not sure who to pick in this one, but I expect that the Union will try to rise to the occasion, but it's just going to be another uphill battle with how many injuries they're dealing with and some inexperience in certain positions.
Got to add quickly to David's game here. Talking about Morano, they are the number one team in the 5A conference, and not just that, they're the number one team in the Open. So that's a pretty big deal here. Really tough task, like David mentioned, for CG Union. And hey, it's worth mentioning when you're number one, not just in the conference, but in the Open, going up against all these other 6A schools like the Chandlers, Hamiltons, Scottsdale, Saguaros. It's worth mentioning. My game to watch is going to be American Leadership Academy Anthem South. They are going to be hosting Globe. And this is ALA Anthem South. This is just their second year competing at the varsity level so far. They're 2-5. So is Globe. So this is kind of that game to determine where they kind of stack up in the region standings. And looking at ALA Anthem South, we got to talk about quarterback Brady rushing, 600 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and running back Landon Medrano. He is the go-to guy on offense, on defense, on special teams. This kid can do it all. As a running back, 171 rushing yards. As a receiver, 328 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. And then on defense, he has a couple of tackles also. I didn't write them down. But anyways, looking at Globe, I think Globe here is kind of going to overpower them just because they have a little more additional weapons on offense. And then just also on defense, their leading tackler, Riley French, 51 tackles compared to ALA Anthem South's top tackler with only 22. I feel like that's kind of a big discrepancy between the two. So hey, I'm thinking Globe might take the win here, but Anthem South will likely make a game out of it. And hey, 2 wins in just their second season of competing at the varsity level. They're kind of trending on the way up, building that foundation like most coaches talk about and everything. So hey, we'll have to wait and see just how this season turns out for them and just what kind of lies for them ahead in the future. As always, here are our picks. We have one Thursday game that is Santan Foothills at Coolidge. Have to give Coolidge a shout out. These guys have not quit. They have held their head up, and they just scored their first points of the season last week. So got to give a shout out to them and just for hanging in there and everything. And as always, hey, check us out next week to see what we got in store.